Hey, this is Notser, and we're taking a look at the aircraft carrier rework once again. This time I want to focus on Tier 10 and the Japanese. So the Japanese have 3 squadrons, just as the Americans, and they focus on shotgun rocket squadrons, not as accurate. And you'll notice that the indicator, when you actually try and aim and attack the target, it is not synced up. The animations go way larger than the indicator would suggest, and that makes it incredibly frustrating for someone who's trying to use the indicator to learn how to control. I just have to say that. But I wanted to test its ability to focus down enemy DDs as quickly as possible and help the team out that way, because it's a joke to farm damage. It's got to easily have the highest potential damage in the game with no risk whatsoever. But the indicator for the attack rockets is so inaccurate compared to the actual animation. I don't know how useful that information actually is. And for the Japanese, they have 3 different squadrons. They have attack rockets, they have torpedo, which unfortunately are deep water torpedoes. So they only attack battleships, cruisers, and aircraft carriers. The 3rd squadron for the Japanese is dive bomb, of course, but they're armor-piercing bombs. Now, I don't know if this is going to be the final design and the Japanese get armor-piercing, the Americans get high explosive. It could just be for testing purposes, right? Because you'll note deep water torpedoes, AP bombs, high explosive bombs, accurate rockets, shotgun rockets, and then regular torpedoes, dual launching torpedoes. They all are completely different. It could just be a simple, we would like players to try every type of armament that will be available to the aircraft carrier, and based on that feedback, we will assign the tools in the background for you to maybe decide, okay, I want armor piercing, I want the squadron to be this size, and let's go. Right? That could be their focus. There were some concerns that why are the Japanese the only ones that get armor-piercing bombs? Which I believe is just for testing, but I can't verify that. It's a good chance to try out each armament and see what works and what doesn't. I switched over to the armor-piercing bomb squadron, and you'll notice just how the attack goes out, how the armor-piercing bomb works out, and I've got to say, I love the way the dive bomb mechanic works, aims, and is rewarded. I love that it is a short window that can be punished. You know, this is very, very short. If I'm not planning the attack just right, I might miss. But also, I can be pretty effective in pinpoint accuracy in the bombing effect. Note that I was able to avoid the flak by just avoiding it. Maybe needs to be a little bit more of that wargaming. There are moments where the flak looks spectacular, and I feel like there's a mini game of avoidance. But most of the time, it kind of feels like it's not there. You know, most of the time it feels very inconsistent, almost random. So I would like more of those moments where I'm trying to fly in and out of flak-riddled area, and it isn't seemingly random. A little bit more focus on the AA guys actually trying to hit the target instead of just animating in and around, I think. But yeah, the dive bomb animation looks great and looks spectacular, has a lot of aiming, a lot of accuracy. It is a huge step up from the RTS, where you're so pulled back, you can't appreciate the ship itself, you can't pinpoint aim on certain modules and certain sections of the ship. This feels way better. Just absolutely spectacular in the presentation for dive bombs specifically. And watch this. We're going in on the Montana. We got the flak. Once again, the animation seemingly doesn't occur for the actual attacking squadron. And I was able to locate and aim precisely on the superstructure, the midship, and it broke through for the Citadel. I love that. I love that the dive bomb has that aspect. I would even go so far as to encourage it even more. You know, make the reticle even tinier. Make it even more precise. I just love that I'm able to see the ship from the air, see its direction, and assign some sort of solution in that 6 or 7 second window. I can, go for the nose, the stern. Maybe I want to drop on a section of the ship to light a fire, right? I like that. I want more of that in every other aspect. So now we called on the torpedo. And yesterday's video, I talked about how there were a couple options in how you were going to attempt to play the squadron. For the Japanese, you get 2 options. You can choose to have 2 or 4 committed attack torpedoes. And obviously, if you have 4 in a full squadron of 12, it's going to take 3 attack runs to use up all 4 of those, to all the aircraft. And when you have only 2 assigned, like this, it's going to take much longer. I am focusing on getting dot damage in this design, but the 4, you could conceivably have that same experience. I like that. The size change is welcome. I hate how easy it is to apply floods and fires. And I think part of that is because the bow and stern pretty much is an automatic flood zone. And yes, maybe it is in real life, and maybe it's the most vulnerable position, whatever. In the game sense, it doesn't make any sense, because these are ships that, especially the modern ships, they're supposed to be all or nothing. They're supposed to accept that the bow and the stern could take damage and still be completely safe and floating. But in this game, the flooding communicates that you're vulnerable and you will sink if you don't repair it. And I don't know that that lines up precisely with the actual design of naval combat in the end. Maybe Wargaming needs to assign some special consideration for torpedo-launched aircraft. It can't be this punishing. As I'm circling around, what I am attempting to do is to get a torpedo to make contact accurately with the bow or stern because of that weird exception. And when I have that weird exception, it causes a flood that sticks forever, because the battleship or the cruiser doesn't want to consistently take attack runs back to back to back to back where they can't do anything, right? They use their damage control, and eventually you wear them out, you cause a flood, it sticks for a minute, and they die. That's not good. That has to change. So I would prefer everything moved towards the dive bomb and everything more accurate. I think that the player base would appreciate that. It wouldn't be quite as set it and forget it. I feel like the indicators are just too easy to use. And maybe we're getting back into the whole, well, Notser, we don't want to make this more challenging than the RTS design, but it's not more challenging. I don't have to juggle 2, 3, 4 squadrons, right? I can focus all my effort on the attack. And since I'm focusing all my effort on the attack itself should be high skill. So people who are good or bad at the game can excel or show that they, fail once in a while. I certainly fail once in a while. I probably will fail trying to dive bomb this enemy cruiser. And you know what? That's great. I like that about the dive bomb system. It is a very short window, and if you don't assign the attack just right, the window is going to close and it's going to be a failed attack. And look at it. We flew through all of the flak. It took out so many squadrons. And note, when it takes out the squadron, because it's a game, Wargaming has assigned an automatic readjustment of the squadron, instantaneous, as if there's no actual communication required. Before they would naturally recognize that a friendly aircraft was shot down, they're already reassigned in the position. So there's no actual effect from your AA stopping the initial drop. That's kind of weird, Wargaming, if you really think about it. The fact that your AA will not stop the first attack or not even weaken the first attack, that feels kind of weird. That makes sense, Wargaming? Whenever I flew through all that aura and I lost like half of my squadron, I always had 3 aircraft for the attack. And I could safely assume that I would always have that for the attack. Perhaps you could try and dial it back a little bit, Wargaming. Offer a little bit more of a mini game when it came to the attack run and Flak attacking the attack squadron that has committed. That might feel better. Or, maybe the lead up to the attack, if the player is successful in avoiding Flak, they shouldn't be punished as hard. And note, when I committed to the torpedo attack, the Flak disappears. It's no longer an issue at all, and by the time the animation shows back up to the squadron itself, it's easily avoidable. I don't even have to consider it. So it feels like there's a little bit too much of a protection for the attack committing. It just feels like right when the Flak builds up to a point where I can't sustain it, if I commit to the torpedo attack, I don't have to worry about it, and the animation isn't lined up very well. Note that the Flak is attacking an area where I was never actually present, and he's still unable to do significant damage until I fly through the Flak that's near long range. Why would the Flak at long range be more accurate than the Flak at point blank, Wargaming? It doesn't make any sense. Why don't I have Flak concealing the ship, obstructing my view, making the attack run harder? Why isn't that something that is just naturally assigned to this gameplay? I get that you want to just see if it functions. It functions, Wargaming. We now need the depth added that we're so desperate for. And the systems are there. I definitely see the potential. But look at this guy. He couldn't do anything. I committed to attack. I don't even need to waste the squadron. I just allow this to aim. And then when the aim settles out, they go right back up and I can do it all over again, if I so choose. In this instance, I am going to go after the enemy DD. I wanted to use my rocket squadron. So there's a lot there that I feel is definitely provable. But I hope that this hasn't been too punishing. What's another critique that I was thinking about? If you've controlled it, you know that there are 3 little reload indicators just to the right of the consumables. Right now you can see it on the screen. It looks like the rocket squadron is red, and there's a little box cooldown that's going up. That's telling me that it's in the process of reloading the rocket squadron. The torpedo squadron is basically fully reloaded. It's a little too easy for that to just passively reload, Wargaming. I kind of feel like what you should do is maybe assign it as a reward for success, right? It slows its ability to reload the squadron. It just seems too fast to me. It seems like I don't really have much to risk, and the squadron is basically fully reloaded by the time my previous squadron. I always have 3 squadrons to choose from, regardless of the success of actually damaging the area. It's just me just trying to attack and continue the process. I kind of feel like it needs to be a little bit more punishing, Wargaming, from a sense that you don't want to encourage people to throw aircraft away. But here's the catch. There's no easy way to get direct control of my aircraft carrier without sending the squadron back. And I think Wargaming know that. And that's the gameplay that they have chosen for the test. And for me, I would prefer it the other way. I would prefer it if you just assigned a direct hotkey to the aircraft carrier and you punished players who threw their aircraft away more consistently than you do. That's what I would prefer, because I feel like that is just an exercise that everyone has to learn in every single ship, not to throw my life away. And it doesn't feel like there's enough punishment here. You have unlimited aircraft. You have what seemingly seems like a very quick recharge to every single squadron, so every single squadron is always available. What's the downside? That you can be sniped? I don't think that's ever going to be an acceptable downside wargaming. It's always going to feel really cheesy. And once again, the animation, there's an immunity whenever I go into the attack. The Flak just doesn't understand what's going on. If it understood more, I think it would feel more balanced. It seems like a broken record, but each and every squadron, no matter dive, torpedo, or rocket, whenever I commit to the attack, and there's that anywhere from 10 to 5 seconds where I have to aim and then attack, it seems like the Flak ignores me. And then it picks right back up at point blank range. As if the attacking squadron, the only thing you risk when you attack is passive short range aura damage. And I don't think it should work like that. I just don't think it should work like that. But these are my thoughts. More thoughts. I'm very curious to hear what you think of the systems. I get that the RTS was attractive, appealing to players, but there are potential skill increases that they can implement, and they need to. They need to, because I've already been maxing and manipulating the AI too much wargaming. I knew that I would be immune to most of the flak whenever I would commit to the attack, so it just can't be like that. Again, tell me what you think. Leave in the comments. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.